For 13 long years, Will had known nothing but cold bars and dim light. Rust coated the metal cage around him, and the smell of it mixed with old straw and filth. The space was so cramped he could barely turn around. It wasn't a home. It was a box for a breathing ghost. Every day looked the same. Every sunrise just brought more of the same dull misery. Will wasn't old yet, but being trapped so long had drained the life from him. His golden fur had faded, marked with scars from years of forced performances. The whip snapped not to train, but to punish, to break him. His ribs pressed against thinning skin, and no matter how much he ate, hunger never really went away. On nights when the crowd roared loudest, his emptiness still echoed louder inside him. His roar, once fierce and proud, had long gone silent. When they banged on his cage before shows, jabbing at him to rise, he hardly twitched. A deep growl might rumble low in his throat, but even that felt like a waste of energy. Now and then, faces would stop and look at him. Some were children, eyes wide with either fear or a strange kind of sympathy. But the worst were his handlers, always sneering, always enjoying what they'd done to him. He knew exactly how this story would end. One day, he simply wouldn't move. The hunger would finally win. They'd poke him, laugh when he didn't respond, then drag out his body like trash. And the circus would move on, maybe with another lion, maybe not. He'd vanish like he'd never been there. But one evening, as the sky flared orange and red, something faint stirred inside him. Not hope, not quite. Just a whisper in his bones. Not today. Sarah was new, just a skinny young woman with quiet eyes who hadn't yet gone numb to the ugliness around her. She saw something in Will's tired gaze, a trace of life that hadn't completely faded. While others mocked him, she stayed longer by his cage. That's when the idea came to her, crazy and risky. But it was all she had. Still, she made the mistake of speaking up. The whispers started right away. They'll catch you. You'll ruin your life. This is stupid. But Sarah held on to one thing. Rancho dos Gnomos Sanctuario. That place was Will's only shot. He wouldn't last much longer stuck in this place. Then came the night. Rain poured hard and fast, soaking everything, masking noise and movement. It was the perfect cover. The handlers barely noticed her slip away, their minds clouded by cheap booze and tired routine. Sarah moved like a shadow past the cages. When she reached Will, her eyes locked onto his. It was insane what she was doing. If anyone caught her, there'd be no forgiveness. But there was no turning back now. This escape wasn't just about saving a lion. It was about saving herself too. The truck from the sanctuary was waiting. She opened the cage door. For Will, freedom didn't feel like freedom, not right away. After so many years behind bars, the world outside hit him like a storm. Blinding rain, flickering lights, loud noises. It was too much. He didn't recognize anything. Panic clawed at him with every step. But each time fear surged, he looked for Sarah. She was still there, soaked and shivering, motioning him forward through the mess. Her presence was the only thing grounding him. His paws slipped on the wet pavement, unfamiliar and cold. The circus smells were replaced with new, overwhelming ones. Every noise felt like danger. But somehow, step by step, he kept going. And then they reached it. The truck, shelter, safety. Sarah called softly, guiding him into the dark interior. It felt like another prison, another trap. Will's instincts screamed at him to stay away. Inside, the space closed in around him again, just tighter in a different way. Sarah climbed in beside him. She pulled some rough blankets over his body, tucking him in like a child hiding from monsters. The fabric smelled strange, earthy and warm, and mixed with Sarah's scent and his own, it gave a small sense of calm in the chaos. The truck jolted forward. Each bump sent shocks through his sore frame. From outside, angry voices pierced the metal shell, yells of confusion. Then the sharp wail of sirens. He wasn't escaping. He was being chased. The choice to fight back, to run, had become a crime. Sarah's hand touched his head, cold and shaking. At first, she barely grazed him, then her fingers gently stroked his ear. Her hand trembled, her breath caught with nerves. But the way she touched him gave him something to hold on to. In that moment, it was all he had. The ride was a blur of stops and starts. Time lost all meaning. And when the truck finally stopped for good, the silence that followed was deafening. Will had spent years listening to the noise of cages, whips, and crowds. But this silence, this quiet, was far more unsettling. Anything could be hiding in it. Still, Sarah was there. She hadn't left. She stayed beside him, the only familiar thing in a world spinning out of control. Then came the metallic groan of the truck door sliding open. Cold air rushed in. Panic surged through Will's chest like a wave. Sarah tried to coax him out. Every part of him wanted to turn back, to bury himself deep in a corner and disappear. But her touch on his side was steady. Her grip carried something he didn't understand. A kind of promise, not of safety, but of something better than what he had known. Will stepped out slowly. His eyes, used to blinding lights and cage shadows, struggled to adjust to the soft glow of moonlight. Shapes loomed in the dark, strange and uncertain. The smells were even more overwhelming. Wet dirt, fresh plants, and worst of all, the scent of other lions, not performers, real ones. His mind filled with danger warnings. These weren't companions. They were threats. Will's body tensed, every muscle pulling him toward the truck again. But Sarah kept him grounded, whispering softly. The words didn't make sense to him, but her tone did. She was telling him to trust her. Step by step, they moved forward into the unknown. He stumbled often, unsteady on anything that wasn't flat metal. The feel of actual soil beneath his paws was so strange it almost hurt. His heartbeat pounded loud in his chest with every shaky step. Then, through the darkness, a space opened up, a clearing bathed in pale moonlight. And waiting there were others. Eyes gleamed in the shadows. Bodies moved quietly, watching him. Curious, cautious. Growls rumbled low and steady. The sound sent terror straight through Will. He shrank beside Sarah, fur on end, ribs pulled tight. The open space felt too big, too exposed. In his cage, at least, he knew where the danger came from. This place had threats hiding in every shadow. He wanted to run back to the small, known world he hated, but at least understood. More humans appeared, but these ones were different. No whips, no shouting. They didn't push or laugh. They walked slowly, hands out, voices low. Will didn't flinch. Not yet. Sarah leaned close and murmured, "It's okay. I'm here." One man stepped closer, older, kind eyes, deep lines carved by years. He crouched in the wet grass and offered a strip of meat. Its smell broke through Will's fear. It wasn't just hunger, it was a longing for something better. But years of abuse taught him to never trust a gift from a human. Still, Sarah picked up the meat, held it near. Her hand didn't shake this time. Slowly, stiffly, Will stepped forward. He took it from her fingers. It was gone in a snap, but the act wasn't about food. It meant something more. They were giving, not demanding. That simple moment cracked something open. Will didn't understand what a sanctuary was. Not yet. This wouldn't be paradise overnight. It was a new world with its own dangers, and he wasn't ready for it, but he was no longer alone. But as his body grew heavy with exhaustion, Will began to notice something different. There were no bars, no locks, and in that small gap of freedom, something new took root. It wasn't much, barely a feeling, but it was there, like a distant star in the night sky, hard to reach, but real. The days dragged slowly, and the nights were worse. Roars echoed through the dark, and each one sent fear racing through him. The only thing that kept him grounded was Sarah. Her quiet visits gave him something familiar, something to hold on to. Sleep came in broken bits, always light, always guarded. He couldn't let go, not yet. The workers at the sanctuary stayed back. They brought food and water, but they never forced anything. And slowly, little moments broke through the fear. A warm patch of sun soaking into his fur. A breeze carrying the smell of distant rain. And most surprising of all, the other lions. They didn't look broken. They walked with strength and ease. Their heads were high, their bodies strong. Watching them stirred something buried deep inside him. On one visit, Sarah must have felt the change. She didn't speak. She just sat beside his enclosure, quiet and calm. Then, slowly, she reached for the gate. It creaked open just a little. Will's heart pounded so hard it hurt. The open space beyond felt more dangerous than anything before. It was freedom, but it also meant leaving the only safety he knew. He looked at the gap, at the people standing nearby, then back at Sarah, and something inside him snapped into focus. The part of him that had refused to give up, the part that had survived, rose up. His legs shook, but he stepped forward. One paw touched soft grass. It was real, not straw, not metal. His body braced for the worst, a yell, a strike, anything. But nothing happened. He stepped again, and again. The grass brushed against his belly. He blinked at the brightness of the sky. He could barely see it through the tears. Sarah cried too, and the workers whispered among themselves, eyes wide in disbelief. Then came the moment, the sound that had been silent for so long. Will roared. It was rough, deep, and cracked from years of silence, but it rang through the air. Then he dropped to the ground and rolled, coating his fur with green. He breathed in the smell of dirt and leaves and let himself feel it. Not fear, joy. He ran, not to escape, but because he could. The other lions watched but didn't stop him, and in that moment he understood. They were healing too. They weren't enemies, they were survivors, just like him. The sky stretched wide above him. The earth was solid and soft beneath his paws. And for the first time in his life, he truly felt what it meant to be alive. His roar came again, full and fierce, a roar that meant, "I'm still here." Years later, they still spoke of Will at Rancho dos Nomos. He was older now, slower, but he walked with quiet power. The scars were still there, faint reminders of what he'd been through. But his eyes still burned bright. They called him the King of the Sanctuary, not because he ruled with fear, but because he had come through the fire and found peace. He was loved, he was home. Do you know of a wild animal that got a second chance like Will? Drop the story in the comments. We'd love to read it. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.